Good morning, Ian Crouch with your 8:30 Hunter News update. An Edgeworth man's been sentenced to 6 years jail for multiple sexual abuse charges. Federal police say the offences were against a woman and a child. The 44-year-old was identified through a nationwide investigation known as Operation Arkstone. Further inquiries found the man to be disseminating child abuse material online, as well as intimate images of a woman without her consent. He'll be eligible for parole in 3 years. Casual workers across the Hunter and Australia could soon be eligible for 10 days paid domestic violence leave under a new bill introduced in federal parliament yesterday. If passed, the scheme is expected to be fully operational by August 2023. Nova for Women and Children CEO Kelly Hansen says given the rise in local domestic violence cases, it's a crucial move by the government.
I think it's indicative of cultural change towards women and gendered violence. It also is indicative of trying to remove barriers and alleviate some of the pressures for women. And we also know women make up the majority of the casual workforce.
A fee-free TAFE course is now available to Hunter residents looking to enter the disability services sector with the hope of boosting the workforce. The sector is believed to be the nation's fastest growing, with more than 80,000 workers needed in the next 2 years if demands are to be met. Course coordinator Meredith Hudson says those living with a disability face a number of challenges.
There's lots of attitudinal barriers. So people have that attitude that people with disability can't work as hard, or they always take sick leave, or they always have an intellectual disability just because they're in a wheelchair. All sorts of different negative attitudes around people with disability, or that it's just too hard to include them in community life.
More than a quarter of eligible electors in Singleton have already lodged a pre-poll or postal vote ahead of tomorrow's council election. The poll is being held for a second time after last year's election result was declared void due to the failure of the iVote system. Pre-poll voting closes at 5 p.m. today. The Electoral Commission says 28% of Singleton voters have already cast their ballot. Polls open tomorrow at 8 a.m. and close at 6 p.m. She's only been in the job of Deputy Speaker for a week, but already Newcastle MP Sharon Claydon has had to reprimand an opposition MP. She had to address Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor several times for referring to her as Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker, I'll take the interjection from the member opposite because...
Okay.
Sorry.
I have waited.
Deputy Speaker.
But you have called me Mr Speaker on at least a dozen occasions. My title is Deputy Speaker. I don't need a Mr, a Mrs, a Madam. It's just Deputy Speaker.
Angus Taylor couldn't break the habit, going on to call her Mr Speaker 4 more times. Maitland Council has allocated $25,000 worth of funding to support tourism growth in the region. The funding's been provided to volunteer-run business association It Must Be Morpeth, which represents 33 local business operators. Mayor Philip Penfold hopes the grant will encourage more people to visit Morpeth and the surrounding area.
The Morpeth's a fantastic destination for this region, and that's certainly a catalyst location where people will often move on to visit other locations within Maitland and the surrounds of the Hunter Valley.
2NURFM Sport.
Knights CEO Phil Gardner has thrown his support behind struggling coach Adam O'Brien as the club looks to avoid the wooden spoon. The club has won just 3 games since starting the season with back-to-back wins. Gardner says O'Brien isn't the source of the club's problems and is simply a victim of circumstance. Hunter driver Christian Mansell will be taking another step towards his Formula One dream as he prepares for his Formula 3 debut this weekend in Hungary. The 17-year-old will also be competing in Belgium next month on the F1 support card. The Jets' full draw for the upcoming A-League season has been revealed with a host of family-friendly fixtures. 9 of the club's 13 home games will be played on a weekend, with club CEO Shane Matisky saying the schedule will be a good way to grow the club's membership. And Raymond Terrace lawn bowler Natasha Van Eldik will kick off her 4th Commonwealth Games later today in Birmingham in the women's 4-sectional play. And the winning numbers in Powerball are 5, 9, 10, 19, 23, 24 and 34, and the Powerball is 13. And now you're up to date with the latest 2NURFM Hunter News.